Everybody, welcome to Alabama Nation YouTube channel. Make sure to like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. Here to talk about some Alabama versus Wisconsin. All right, there's a lot to talk about. Obviously, some news coming out about making the Pac-6. There's just a whole lot to talk about. Now, of course, we love talking college football. But with that being said, I'm going to let you guys go around the table here and basically give your information where everybody can find you. Starting with you, Ty, then Coach Carl, and then Coach Sean.
Yeah, you can find me at Around the Table Sports. You can find me on the Bama Standard. You can find me with John or Coach Sean or Coach Carl, to be honest with you. You can find us tomorrow, 9 a.m. Central Standard Time, and on Bleacher Report.
Coach Carl.
Yes, man. You can find me on Twitter as Coach KD Taylor, or you can check out my YouTube channel. It's On the Block Sports Talk with Coach Carr. I haven't been posting anything lately because we've been heavy off into the high school football season. But once we get some free time, man, get a the first 6 hard weeks, and then we get a bye week, and then I'll go ahead and drop a video or two. But other than that, man, you can find me on here with these guys, man. Some of the smarter guys in the business. Appreciate it.
Coach Sean.
Yeah, definitely check out Coach Carr. Got some really good clips on his site, on his page, live from the game, man. That Coach Saban hit hard, man. It was great. It's the best one I've seen, best view I've seen. You can definitely find me at JMHO Sports Talk right here on Twitter, right here on YouTube, both JMHO, just my humble opinion. You can also find me with these guys, with Coach Carr, with John, with Ty, all together. Just any of these guys' channels and JMHO. Tap in with us.
All right. So I guess we'll start off. We'll start off with Alabama versus Wisconsin, right? It's going to be 11 a.m. kickoff for Big Noon. It's in Camp Randall. There's a little bit of noise coming out right of Wisconsin. One of their linebackers talking a little bit of noise. But for the most part, I think there's a lot of respect between when it comes to Kalen DeBoer, Luke Fickell being there. I'm a huge Mike Tressel fan, right? Phil Lingo, the new offense coordinator, and all that good stuff. But with that being said, starting off with you, Ty, what are you really looking for when it comes to this game between Alabama and Wisconsin? What are you going to be concentrating on? Like seeing, is it an improvement? Are we opening up the playbook? Like stuff like that.
Yeah, I think for me, this game is less about Wisconsin and more about Alabama. What I mean when I say that is there's some people out there that think that they're being hesitant with the playbook, but let's say, for instance, that we've only gotten to page 2 of the playbook. It's time to get to page 4 or 5. And I say that because Georgia's on the horizon. I'm not of the mindset that that's the game where you really want to be opening up the playbook and saying, oh, we haven't done this one yet. Let's try it here. Listen, I know there are people who still don't really believe that Georgia is the back-to-back national championship Georgia Bulldogs, and that's fine. You can believe that. I don't know that we know for certain yet, but we do know they're a darn good football team. I hope that the offensive line is better, but also, John, Coach Sean, Coach Carl, I don't know that USF possesses the blitz package I don't know that Wisconsin possesses the blitz package of USF, right? USF blitz is at like 63% clip. They're the fastest offense in college football, running 3 plays a minute. I don't know if they're going to get Alabama into those situations, but I'm looking at Alabama to avoid them. So for me, it's a lot less about Wisconsin and a lot more about Alabama.
Ooh, I like that take. Coach Carl?
Man, I say the same thing, man. Wisconsin going to play hard. But I just don't understand why everybody's so worried about what Wisconsin bring to the table. It's a Big Ten school. Only thing they're really going to bring is physicality. They don't spread the ball out, kind of like South Florida did. South Florida came out with spread concept. They widened the field. They used every inch of the field. They ran the ball. They took deep strike shots. They had a dual threat quarterback to rush for unforeseen amount of their yardage against us because he wasn't afraid, for one. They came in, they talked the talk when they came in. They said they was coming in to beat us, and they showed up with that same mentality that they came to beat us. And they really backed it up. I was surprised they played that well. And then I went down their roster and started looking at some of the transfer that came in and some of the defensive people that added to the staff from last year. I wasn't so surprised they played that well. And then we had 2 guys playing out of position that we shouldn't have been playing anyway, and we're going for them to stay in the game a little too long for me.
Yep.
I would have pulled them in the second half, the beginning of the second half, or maybe early in the second quarter because he struggled so bad. I would have never moved Tyler Booker from the guard to the tackle. I would have just tried out another tackle. I mean, you experiment on one side, you might well experiment on both. And then at that point, that 3-3-5 wouldn't have got so much pressure when they run up in that eagle front and putting all that pressure coming up the middle. Because now you put an inexperienced guy in the middle on top of an eagle, and you got to be able to read the A and the B gap when you line up on the eagle front. So I want to done on that. And with Wisconsin just gonna line up in an even front and just try to go at you. They're gonna try to use their strength,
Yep,
and their will to get downhill to come after you. And that's going to be the biggest issue with Wisconsin. And I think Alabama going to be geared up to handle that, being that they made the transition in the second half and start moving the ball even better in the fourth quarter. So now that they got that reps in the fourth quarter, driving down the field, laying bodies on people, moving them down the field, Wisconsin may be in a little trouble because now you commit too many resources to the box. We got all the speed in the world on the outside, and I'm quite sure no Big Ten team is really going to run with you besides Ohio State. Because we've seen that Michigan in his own can't run man to man with these kids from Texas. And Texas probably not as fast as Alabama. So I don't see many Big Ten teams being able to handle that speed on the outside. But it's just that they're gonna be able to handle that push up front. Is Alabama gonna handle that push up front? If we can handle that front six or that front seven up front, I don't think there'll be anybody that can play with Alabama this weekend. So I don't really have too much worry. But it's still playing in Camp Randall. So the crowd factor is early in the morning. The kids have never played an early in the morning game, so that could be a factor. And it may be a slow start being that it's early in the morning. Bama probably pull away in the second half, so to say. But yeah, I feel very, very confident in the game coming up for Saturday.
All right, Coach Sean, what you got? Me remove that.
I agree with both coaches. I agree with Ty and I agree with Coach Carl, but I always worry, man. I always worry. Even when we shouldn't worry, I worry. I want to see us on the road. I want to see us on the road in a hostile environment. I want to see how we handle it. Make no mistake about it. This team has been practicing for Alabama since last year. No Luke Fickle well, studied this team very, very well. Just like Coach said, an even front team, but we'll also, run a 3-man front and slant back to an even front. I noticed that. I've seen several times they came out in 3-man front and slanted to a 4-man to an even front. A lot of 4-eye, you know what I mean? 7 and 8-man boxes. They sort of hide the blitz and bring pressure from different places. I don't think I'm a little different. I don't think this is a team that you can play with. I don't think they're as talented as Alabama. I don't think man to man they can line up with us. I don't. I agree with that, but I just don't think this is a game where we want to F around, if you know what I mean. Camp Randall is a very, very, very loud place, bro. Wisconsin has a very, very good home crowd, and they're gonna be excited to play Alabama. I don't really give a damn how they looked against South Dakota because they gonna come out. This is their game. This is their Super Bowl. They want to play Alabama. We know we get everybody's best shot. So you can throw those games out the window, man. I think Coach Carl is right. Pressure is the key. Um, I don't want to see us go out and stub our toe, man. I don't want to go 3 and out 4 times before we get our offensive legs under us. I want to go in there and put our foot on their neck from the beginning. This is not a team that, I don't want to play with any team on the road. Any team on the road. I want to go in there and take the life from the crowd early. If we do that, it bodes well for us. If we go out there effing around and punting and doing ridiculous things and allowing Wisconsin to stay in the game, I don't want to look up in the fourth quarter and there be a fight. I don't want to even risk that. I want to come out, play Alabama football like we did the last 5 minutes of the game against South Florida and suck the life right out of them. Take the hope, take the wishes, take the energy away from their crowd. So yeah, that's just me, man. I'm very, very, very conservative when it comes to playing on the road because I understand those road games. The home team is usually about 7 points better, and I want to go in there and kick their asses. Period. From jump, from toe meets leather to 0 on the clock. I want to go in and make an example of these guys and really, really, really play Alabama football.
Yeah, so I got a couple of things. I feel a little bit better now by saying this. I watched the film. I watched them play Western Michigan. I watched them play South Dakota, and I understand that's not them playing Alabama. Luke Fickell did come out and make a statement saying that Alabama is still the standard in college football. They're still the best team in college football from a consistency standpoint. I think that was key, right? But we did see what happened the last time we did play Luke Fickell. Cincinnati had the 3-3-5 defense, and we just ran it down their throat and didn't give them a chance, right, to throw the ball whatsoever. I mean, it was just a slaughter. The score 27-6 did not do it justice. When I look at this defense, and I went through a lot of the press conferences, and you hear Mike Tressel talk about, look, we want to run a 3-3-5 here, but we don't have the personnel to do it. Not yet. We're still probably a year to 2 to maybe even 3 years away from doing that. So from what I've gathered with Jake here, they're running basically a 2-4-5 concept. And then for heavier sets, 2 tight end packages, they bring in a 3-4. Or every time we enter the red zone, expect a 3-4 defense every single time, right? So after looking at that and looking at what you can do to attack that defense, it doesn't bode well, in my opinion, for Wisconsin, because Jalen Milroe, his speed, and I'm assuming what we're going to do is stretch that defense completely out, unload the box, and let Ryan Williams, Kobe Prentice, Kendrick Law, and Jalen's legs, along with obviously running the ball, completely torch the grass, right? Run the ball. That's just what I've gathered from the film, and it's hard for me to be nice against Wisconsin in this game, because I looked at the South Florida game and I thought the opposite, right? I felt very uncomfortable. I'm like, okay, this defense brings something a lot different than what we're seeing right now, in my opinion. Just a base defense, like Coach Carl said, they're just going to come at you. You're right. It's going to be a man-on-man standpoint, 11-on-11. It is what it is at this point. We're going to get to or not. And I feel a lot better in that concept. And also, obviously, hearing Coach Kalen DeBoer talk about, it sounds like Caden Proctor's coming back in this game, and it sounds like Elijah Pritchett's definitely going to be a starter, right? So that was kind of definitely made in that press conference as well. But I don't see a wide receiver that scares me. They get a dog at running back. I get that. I'm not overly impressed with their offensive line. This isn't the old school Wisconsin running game that we're used to seeing. Phil Lingo comes in, he spins the ball, right? He has an air raid style offense. So a lot is changing in Wisconsin, and that alone makes me feel better about where we stand. Not only are we seeing big change, Wisconsin's going from a primarily running team to now they're not primarily passing yet, but they're edging towards that concept. And you're seeing the struggle with Tyler Van Dyke. His worst season so far starting out, by the way. Completion percentage, everything across the board. So, yeah, I definitely feel comfortable by taking the spread, which if you guys look on the screen here, it's -16. I don't know if it's moved yet or not from that for Bama, and over under a 52.5. So, but yeah, so moving back over to you, Tyke, saying all that stuff, like, what do you expect to see from the defense in this game? Like, who do you think's really going to stand out? And we'll go around and let you guys give your take on that.
Yeah, I think that in this game, you're going to see Jihad Campbell continue his pursuit of the Butkus Award. He is having a sensational season, and it's been an unbelievable year for linebackers in general. I mean, every time I'm watching games, there are guys I'm just watching, and I'm like, dear Lord, you're having an unbelievable season. Jihad Campbell's on that list, no doubt about it. Yep. I also think that this is a game where you could see the secondary get a turnover again, right? I think it's absolutely one of those type of situations. But, John, you're 100% right. And this is something before USF, you and I had about a 45-minute phone call. You were about to hop on a stream with Coach Sean.
Yep.
And I told you something very similar in the sense of USF worried me more than Wisconsin. That's not to say that Wisconsin doesn't have a better roster, but I have the boxing companion sitting right there. I point to that to say styles make fights. USF caught Alabama when the offensive line was being shuffled around, when they're undergoing a schematic change. Last season, neither Tyler Booker nor Jaden Roberts started, and you had a quarterback conundrum in a hurricane. Timing is everything. And that Todd Orlando defense, they're going to live by the blitz and die by the blitz. When it comes to Wisconsin, I agree with you, John. Like, there are some pieces on this Wisconsin team I look at and I'm like, you're a dude, you're a dude, you're a dude. I don't discount that. But as a collective, what are you bringing to the table? And for Alabama's defense, I understand that last week USF ran the ball, But in my humble opinion, to quote Coach Sean, I think the majority of their effectiveness running the ball came in that first quarter and a half. Did they have some effective runs after that? No doubt about it. But you also had an offense that couldn't stay on the field. And when they were putting drives together, kept giving the other team the ball, fumble on the kickoff. Alabama's defense wasn't put in the best position. And you had a quarterback that operates in that veer and shoot system beautifully. Absolutely beautifully. He knows what needs to be done, and he's very good at getting it done, especially in the read option game that they run. Tyler Van Dyke's not that guy. Like, he might be a better passer, sure, but I think that plays into what the defense wants to do as opposed to a quarterback who you have to account for. Alabama last week, and this is the last thing I'll say, defensively, Alabama got in trouble last week whenever they crashed in on the running back. When they stayed home, when they stayed disciplined, and Q-Rob had a phenomenal game at keeping his eyes disciplined on the quarterback. He was really impressive. But when the defensive front stayed disciplined and they all didn't crash the interior, they nullified it. This game, don't get me wrong, they'll stay disciplined, but they will be able to guess more correctly if they crash on the interior.
Coach Carl, what you got on this defense from Wisconsin?
I mean, that's the same thing I was going to say last week when the defense was doing all that bending and crashing. They gave too much upfield. Like, you give up the middle of the field. Boom. This guy here is a dual threat quarterback with a lot of speed. So he took the middle of the field. He took that grass and he ran with it and picked up big yards after big yards and big yards and big yards. And he was basically the whole run game. Accuracy-wise, he wasn't that accurate. Yeah, I think if that was Tyler Van Dyke we played last week with that South Florida offense, he probably gave up, 2 or 3 more touchdowns because he did miss 2 or 3 wide open passes that could have been caught, and they were still running on some cornerback doing too much of playing man instead of getting back in their drops. And then running with the guys, every time you drop in with a wide receiver, you're running with a wide receiver, you train to touch him. If you can't feel the wide receiver, you beat. Either you beat over the top or he done stopped on you and did a stop route or something, came back. So you still beat. If you can't feel him, you beat. And last week, it was a lot of times you could see these guys running and their eyes is on the ball and they're reaching back and they don't feel nobody. Now you got to turn and try to catch up. And the ball was just overthrown, slightly overthrown. If we played somebody Tennessee, maybe Tyler Van Dyke, those are completion. Do they score? Probably so. Then it's a tighter game. And coming in the fourth quarter, we down now instead of being up, barely up. So we coming in the fourth quarter, at that point we were down. I don't think Wisconsin had the scheme to scheme guys open like South Florida was scheming guys open. You don't have to do a threat as a quarterback for them to have to worry about it. So now when these ends start peeling their ears, you got Quay Roos all on one side, Quindary Robinson coming in. When they start peeling their ears back, you don't have to worry about this guy stepping up in the pocket, taking off. You just got to just go. And he step up, he going to step up into a defensive tackle that's probably faster than him. And I don't think he's going to try to step up. He's not a dual-step quarterback. He's more likely going to try to get out. He'll try to bail out, get outside, and then throw the ball away. Or he might try to just go ahead and take a sack because most quarterbacks like him don't want to get hit hard. If he get hard hit, he's going to start throwing the ball in the bias, and then we end up getting turnovers. Other than that, Wisconsin offense, man, with Luke Fickle, we played him in the Georgia Dome. Well, what was that, the Mercedes-Benz Stadium? He come with the same type of offensive game plan. And most people around Alabama know he's going to try to run the ball. He's going to try to get his various skills, take the out in space a little bit, try to work some mismatches. But if they can't run the ball, then that offense is dead in the water because they're usually not that talented on the outside. Their main plan is to try to get ball downhill and open up play actions. So with this defense, man, with this read and react defense, I think it's okay to play against a team like this. If it was more that smashed my old school Wisconsin, I think I'd be a little concerned. But I just don't see their offensive line being as talented as the Melvin Gordon offensive lines back in those days. All them big bruised and physical offensive line, kind of like Michigan had last year. That well seasoned, them backyard corn husker type offensive linemen. So so I'm not really that concerned for what the defense give. I'm more concerned about how our right tackle gonna play as a starter, and how effective Caden Proctor gonna be back with that shoulder. Those are my two main concerns right now. Defense wise, I mean, we only gave up 8 points. Could have been 24 or 28, but we only gave up 8 points this year. So I see that let me know that they're bending a little, but they're not breaking. So they only gonna get better.
All right, before we jump over to Coach Sean Brensky, go ahead and let you bring yourself in here, man. Introduce yourself, tell everybody where they can find you, and then give me your take just on what you're looking for in this upcoming Alabama versus Wisconsin game, brother.
Well, first off, what's good to y'all, brothers?
Brensky.
And shout out to everybody in the stream. But I'm Brent Sharp of the Sharpshooters Podcast. Make sure you guys subscribe to the channel and also these gentlemen YouTube channel too. But what I'm looking for is just seeing how the offensive line play gonna be for this game. I'm not familiar with Wisconsin's defense, so I'm really can't wait to see how they play us on defense, just to see how they're gonna play. I think it's gonna be really, really interesting, especially with Caden Proctor supposedly ready to go, and it's been confirmed. But I'll see if he's gonna play on Saturday. Um, Always checking out the secondary every week just to see if I see any improvements with those guys. What else can I say? And definitely how Jalen Milroe's gonna play on the road in that noisy madhouse. So we're gonna really see. It's gonna be a real interesting uh, Saturday, and we on bit noon. So Alabama fans, wake up! We playing early.
All right, Coach Sean, give me what you got.
First, shout out to my brother Anthony Riggins in the house, man. Former military vet right there, 88 Mike, put in a lot of work, about 10 years worth. Shout out to my brother Anthony Riggins, man. It's my brother for sure. Shout out to my brother Patriot Life, man. And there, Rob. Love y'all boys to death, man. Shout out to the both of those guys, man. Good friends of mine. I admittedly, I don't give a damn about defense. I ain't really watched that much of defense. If it's defense, I call Coach Carl or I call Jake or even Ty. Ty is a film connoisseur. I call these dudes. I watched a little bit of Wisconsin's defense. Like I said, I seen sometimes they line up in the even front, odd front, slanted back to an even front. Try to disguise some things in the box, even some four eyes. Inside shade of the tackle. I watched their offense. That's what I really watched. I watched a ton of offense on these guys. I wanted to know what their strengths was. I wanted to know what could their quarterback do. These guys, it just seemed weird to see Wisconsin running inside zone. A lot of 3-by-1, a lot of pistol formation. You know what I'm saying? A lot of stretch mid zone. I like the fact I like that they double team. They do a lot of combo blocking. Um, on the defensive end, their guards like to move up to the second level. On the linebackers, they do a decent job, man, getting to the second level. I believe their right tackle, Coach Al even pointed that out to me, so I had to go pinpoint him. Shout out to Coach Al, too. Me and Coach Al compare a lot of notes. Coach Al hit it spot on. 71 seems to get out of his stance. Very, very slow. Big guy, get his hands on you, he can rough you up a little bit, but very, very slow getting out of his stance. I do believe we're going to pick on him a lot. Run a lot of stack and bunch with 2 and 3 receivers to the weak side, try to catch you on the backside. I do like a lot of their crosser routes. They run what we call tunnel. Everybody calls it something different. Shout out to Coach Al Sanders right there.
Yep.
I noticed Coach Al, they run what we call tunnel. Some people call it crossers. Some people call it spike. Some people call it different things, right? Where the receiver will run underneath one middle linebacker and behind the next one. You understand what I'm saying? He'll release on the weak side and run underneath one middle linebacker and run behind the next one. We call it tunnel. And he'll get some depth, and they'll try to hit you with that to confuse the young secondary. Run a lot of slide protection, a lot of wide crossers. But like I say, number 71, that right tackle, Coach Al pointed out to me. I watched him closely. Physical guy if he can get his hands on you, but very, very suspect in the pass game, man. You know, it you know, he oversets in the loose line, like when they're lining up loose, he overset. When they're lining up tight, he overset. You know, what that tells me is he's compensating for getting beat in the pass pro. Anytime you see a tackle like that, they're trying to compensate and get that little extra step if they can on you. You know what I'm saying, Coach? They're trying to get that extra step on you, man. So I like some of the things they do on offense, man. You know, San Diego, what is it? South Dakota State gave them some issues up front, you know, running the 4-eye, you know what I mean? Guard had a lot of success, you know. It was just real different watching the defense that they ran against these guys, man. That 4-eye, that defensive lineup where the DN is on the inside shade of the tackle. I do like the fact that they do have some plays where they read the box. I've noticed they'll read the box. You know, they'll run quarterback draws out of it. If you try to go 4-over-3 against these guys, meaning 4 defenders to 3 receivers, you're trying to match them with 4-over-3, 3 DBs against their 3 receivers with an inside linebacker, maybe, you know what I mean, or safety, depending on what you're running. I noticed that these guys will run the screen on you out of that formation, and they will run a quarterback sneak out of that same formation, sort of Boise State-esque. A lot of 12 personnel, 1 back, 2 tight ends. These guys do run empty, though. I did see them run empty.
Phil London.
Yeah, I seen it. It seems weird to see Wisconsin running empty, but they do run inside outside zone. They run outside zone with a stacked tight end. The front tight end will block down. The back tight end will come across the formation and block backside. So a lot of different things they'll try to do to get you out of position. It's not like they got some super duper burners out there. You know, this defense should eat on Saturday. We should eat on Saturday. These guys don't really do a lot of things to confuse you. But when you got a young secondary as young as ours, you really don't have to do a lot of things to confuse you. The bunch sets in itself is tough for any young secondary. You know, I hear what everybody's saying, man, and I agree with you guys. But remember, bunch sets are very difficult to cover if you run them the right way. Bunch sets can really, really, really come. And I'm sure they've practiced on this I'm almost damn near positive Bama's practiced on this all season. Shout out to Pam, shout out to Roll Tide, Roll Mimi. You know, I'm almost positive, tough as nails. I'm almost positive Bama's practiced on these bunch sets with these young defensive backs, man. But if you bust the coverage with a bunch set, these guys will throw it deep on you. They'll try. Tyler Van Dyke is not Michael Vick by any stretch of the imagination. But if you bust the set, like last week, you know, if you bust the coverage, you know, and let the receiver get behind you, you don't have to be, you know, you don't have to run a 4-2 to get a touchdown. We have a very young secondary. So it's going to be interesting. It's going to be loud in there. Do these guys get the calls in? I want to see us. Wisconsin is not an overpowering offense, but they do some confusing things. You know, any coach will tell you if outside zone is blocked well, right? They'll double team the defensive end. They'll let the guard peel off and get up on the linebacker. If outside zone or inside zone is blocked correctly, that's a 10, 15-yard gain. So we're going to see, man. We're going to see. I mean, everybody made great points, and I do understand what they're saying, and I agree. We should put belt to ass this game, but the truth is in the details, man. Will we do it? Saturday will tell the story.
All right, so a couple things out of this. I've done plenty of my research. I've thrown the stats up here for you guys as well. And look, like I said, I took a long time to figure out where Wisconsin really can come at Alabama and make this more of a competitive game, in my opinion. But when it comes down to it, they create a lot of they're actually top 5 in the country, by the way, in creating pressure. The problem is they just don't get to the quarterback, right? So in my opinion, from a defensive standpoint, guys, since we got some defensive guys on here, you know, how much does it help your defense when you can create the pressure, but at the same time, like, you're not really getting at the quarterback at the same time, or even creating turnovers? Like, so is that metric kind of skewed when you look at it that way? Because that's one thing they're pushing the narrative of is, yeah, Wisconsin can get to your quarterback. They just can't take down the quarterback. I mean, I don't really know what to say on that. And the other thing I want to get you guys' opinion on, and the questions to you guys on this will be when I went back and watched film, when I even went back and started at the beginning of the year, right, through Western Kentucky, you look at the South Florida game. There's one thing that stuck out that I haven't really heard anybody talking about yet. When you look at the deep balls that are being thrown on Alabama, they're all coming. All the receivers are in the slot. They're not lining somebody up on the outside and trying to take those guys out from the outside. They're all coming in the slot. Now, this is to everybody on the panel here. Is that because they're finding a mismatch on the defense, or is there something inside this defense you guys think that they're just trying to attack, or what? Because I've counted about 85% of the deep throws on Alabama have all come from that slot position. And yeah, go ahead, Ty.
Go ahead, Ty.
You got a true freshman, Red Morgan, right? Yeah. Like a lot of the times he's the guy coming in there. And I would be even more curious, John, what percentage of the deep balls came if Devontae Smith was in the game. I think it's one of those things where, okay, here's how I would look at this. And I could be totally wrong, but this is just the way I look through it. How many times has anybody really tested Damani?
Not much.
They're not, because you watch that all 22. A lot of the times he's on these wide receivers like stable and poop. I mean, he's right there. He's jamming them off the line, and he is just running with them, running free. They're testing the young guys, which, like, to Coach Sean's point, he has a great point about the young defensive backs, how you can attack them out of bunch. And I think you can expect teams to continue doing that. But for me, it's just the fact of, okay, Zabian Brown, I think a lot of teams in their film study are like, oh, that's the guy who everyone said was the most college-ready cornerback in last year's class. Even though he wasn't the highest-ranked cornerback, he was the most, like, everybody agreed, he was the most college-ready from a technical standpoint. Okay, we can test him. That's fine. Oh, then they have this cat right here who's really impressed, Red Morgan, right? And I think that they look at it and they're like, okay, well, we have a speedy slot wide receiver against a true freshman. Let's test that matchup. I could be wrong, but that's kind of where I look at it coming from, is that it's just the nature of a lot of your slot guys are pretty quick, and you have a true freshman who I think would probably be the bulk of those deep throws coming on Red.
Anybody else want to say anything on that?
Well, for me, going to the slot is always a lot of times when you play better competition, you'll find your third defensive back or safety being on the slot. Ty is 100% correct. If you have a good athlete in the slot, he's going to be lined up on your safety or your third cornerback, right? Unless you have someone like a Terrion Arnold who's a starter that you move to your nickel or your star or whatever you want to call it, right? So your slot will always have a matchup, if you have a really, really good slot, right? If you have a fast guy, it's so many different variations of routes you can run from the inside with a slot on a third defensive back, on a guy that may not be your outside guy, your number one outside guy. And in our case, Red, who may be a corner that's playing safety, they're going to automatically attack him. It's a much safer throw to throw a 10-yard out to a slot than go outside the hashes and throw deep to someone and that you're not confident going to beat the defensive back. So it's a matchup thing. It's kind of what Ty said. If you got a good matchup, if you got a good slot, a decent, fast slot on a young freshman defender, you'll take that all day, every day, especially in the slot, especially underneath coverage in space, right? You give the quarterback time, those slot matchups can be deadly if you're not careful. I can remember Pat Surtain in his freshman season played some on the inside, and Pat gave up some plays his freshman season. So, that position, you have to be extremely quick. You have to think fast, right? Because these guys run mesh all day from the slot. Last week, and you can get beat, man. You can get beat in a lot of different routes from the slot. So that's usually your third cornerback. In our case, he's a freshman. So you definitely take that matchup.
Brunsky, Coach Carl, you guys got anything to say?
No, they said everything on there.
Yeah, I know, right? They said everything you can say on that one, man. You take If I got a freshman playing that slot, man, that slot receiver, I'm gonna put my best catching, fastest slot receiver in there in that slot. I might even put my number one receiver in the slot. Like,
Tennessee. I like Tennessee.
I put my number one receiver in the slot and just say, hey, freshman.
Oh, 100%.
Have a great night.
If we were playing a team and they put a true freshman in the slot, I'd look over at any one of the wide receivers for Alabama, whether that's Jeremy. You might even use Jeremy just because he's so experienced and be like, hey, school this kid. Like, just go to town. I know Ryan Williams is otherworldly talented, probably the highest ceiling, but Jeremy's no slouch. He's a quick dude, and he's so experienced. If I'm an offensive coordinator, I'd line him up in the slot, or Kendrick Law, or Prentice, like one of the more experienced guys, just to be like, school him. Take him to school.
Then that's what happened last week, man. You know, he started putting Giovanni Bernard in the slot. That's how he started getting open for passes, because on the outside, he wasn't winning. When they put him in the slot, he started winning. And Miro started feeding him. And I think he started feeding him a little too much, which threw everything else off. And then as soon as you go back to the slot to Ryan Williams, boom, another touchdown. It's like those mismatches in the slot, man. It's a reason why you have a number one and a number two corner. That's a reason. That's a reason.
Yep. I appreciate it, Patriot Life, for the $10 donation, gentlemen. Have a great evening and a great Friday. Roll Tide Roll. You too, man. Life. Yeah. So the one thing I feel like that's not being talked about enough as well is something I mentioned at the very beginning. Wisconsin's going to be without their senior linebacker at that middle position. We're talking about Jake Chaney. And I think that's one thing I feel like Nick Sheridan and them have to take advantage of. Why? Because if you look at this defense, a lot of it runs through that middle linebacker position, whether that's where the blitz is coming from or he's helping the outside linebackers line up. I've noticed on this defense. And obviously we're going to be without Justin Jefferson the first half as well. But in my opinion, I think it would be a really wise decision to attack the middle of that defense where those inside linebackers are at least in the first half. And another thing to look out for too is I don't know if you guys have read up on the dollar package that Luke Fickell runs on defense as well, that he made famous towards the end of Cincinnati. 2-3-6 defense. He hasn't featured it very much, but I guess there's a possibility you'll see that because he plays it against the spread more often than not. That's hard for me to fathom. 2 defensive tackles, 1 outside linebacker on the edge, and then basically everybody else. It feels like it's a defensive back. But once again, it just keeps making me think we're going to run the ball down their throat if they keep doing this stuff. I mean, is there any other thing you're going to do other than Justice Haynes, Jam Miller? Let's get this moving. Elijah Pritchett, you're clearly good at run blocking. Let's go ahead and just hammer this thing home at this point. I mean.
Well, and even to take that step further, if it is Caden Proctor's first game back, Coach Carl, we always talk about this. Theoretically, 9 times out of 10, and if I'm wrong, please, by all means, Coach Sean, Coach Carl, Brinsky, John, y'all correct me. An offensive line is going to be better at run blocking than pass blocking because it's the difference between firing at somebody and then trying to catch some monstrous SEC edge rusher who wants to take your head off and the guy behind you. Caden Proctor's coming back off of injury. Unleash him. Say go get him and let the running backs feast. Let Milroe feast behind him. I also think watch for a long play by either Law or Bernard in a jet sweep. Coming across, I think we might show him a bit of orbit motion, and then one time it's not going to be an orbit. It's going to be boop, and that guy's going to take it to the house. I just, the way this game is lining up, I feel very strongly that could be a winning concept.
100% agree. Anybody else on that?
Even with the jet, the jet lets you know what it is, man to man in the zone. Yes. So once you put that guy in motion and he come across there in the jet, and neither one of those linebackers move with him, we know he in zone. You hand it off because he's gonna beat that. He's gonna beat the outside linebacker around the curve, and he rolls with him. Then you pull it, and then you hit the slant backside behind him. Because now you vacated that spot. So now you can come in with a backside slant. And with the speed and spaces, you still running either way it goes. So with that jet motion coming around across that corner, man, there's so much you can do behind jet. And a lot of people put somebody in motion just to see what the coverage is. Like, I want to know what coverage you're playing. Let me put a guy in a little shadow motion. Boom. I'm going to send you in motion. If the linebacker roll with him or the safety or corner whoever roll with him, then you turn around and send them back to that very same spot. Now we go back to our original play because we know what you're running. And then we had a play for just a play call for a zone. Then we opt out of that play, call it all of it to another play. We check it to a man. That's all jet motion does. That's all most motion does. It's just give you idea of what type of defense somebody playing. That's why when I was calling defense, it's like a defense coordinator calling defense. If you sent somebody in motion, I would just shift. I could be playing man to man, but I wouldn't transfer. I'll make everything shift. Boom, we're gonna hop down to make it seem like we playing zone, but we playing man. Just transfer it one, just bounce, boom, 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 boom. Everybody bounce down one gap, boom, one slot, one out, and then make it seem like we playing zone, but we actually playing man. Now when you drop back and pass the ball, we got guys coming. Yo, this guy covered, this guy covered, this guy covered. Now we got a free runner, and that's how I used to do it. But no, man, sometimes you just gotta be smart, and then this on a high school level, so you can't do what you do in high school and in college. Like you can't do what you do in middle school and take it to high school. High school don't translate into college. College don't translate into the pros most of the time. Once you get to the next step, you're gonna have to evolve. Everything has to evolve.
There you go. Some knowledge dropped on you guys for that. So KJ Silo with the question. I don't know if you're going to want to get more specific with this, but he's asking Coach Sean to explain briefly the different wide receivers on a basic offense, please. So I'm assuming he's talking about the X, Y, and Z maybe, or something along that route.
Yeah, on a basic, I mean, you can mix these things up however you want nowadays. They have, when you line up talking about receivers, man, you could put tight end. It's so much different things you can do, but basically, your X receiver is usually your split end. That's usually your speed top guy. The guy that you want going vertical, the guy that can really go underneath. He can do everything, right? That's your X, right? Opposite him, you have your Z, right? Your Z is usually your flanker receiver. This guy usually is a guy that's quick and fast. He's quick as well. And your slot. Your slot is usually your inside guy. That's in a basic set. You know what I'm saying? He in your slot will always basically most of the time he'll be behind the line of scrimmage. He'll be off the line. So that's what it is. Your slot, your X, your Z, which is your split end, your flanker, and your inside guy. You'll have those on practically every play in some formation or another. Everybody line up. So it's so many different ways you can line these guys up, man, and bring in extra personnel. But those are your three basic receiver slots outside of tight end, obviously.
Yeah, we can go on for days for that. Anybody else to add on to that? Yeah, so wrapping this up before we get off here soon, guys, just some stats over here I'll put together real quick. Points per game, we're at 52.5. Wisconsin's at 27.5. We got them on pass yards a game, 232 to 203 rush yards a game. We're at 264 to their 183. They are quite efficient on third down, 56%. We're at 50% total defense, which, look, when I dug into more of the numbers, I'm like, damn, our defense is actually doing pretty good. And then I went back, same thing when I remembered the film from South Florida. We put our defense in a couple of bad spots that really got us out of that, right? I'm surprised we didn't give up more than 16 points, in all honesty. As you guys can see, your points allowed only 8 per game. We're only going into game 3, right? But the pass yards allowed from both ends is quite impressive, but more so the teams that Alabama has played schematically, only allowing 103 yards a game. I get it. Western Michigan's not a world beater, but they're known for throwing the ball. South Florida's not a world beater, but they're known for throwing the ball. And to your point, Coach, it was South Dakota, not even South Dakota State, that Wisconsin played, right? Yeah. In Western Michigan, they're not going to throw it all over. They'll throw some RPO at you for sure, but they're not world beaters at throwing the ball either. So rush yards allowed, they're only allowed 121.5. We're only allowing 124. And our third down percentage stops is what's so damn impressive to me on this defense. 14% of the time they convert on third down. But to me, that's just astronomical. Believe me, I'm sure these numbers will increase. These percentages will increase slightly. Hopefully this one goes down. Penalties, 20 for 179 in 2 games. They're at 7 for 30. Our red zone offense is at 77%. Theirs is at 80%. And another one that impressed me a lot was our red zone defense, only allowing any points 66% of the time. while Wisconsin allows points 100% of the time. So, yeah, is there anything that really sticks out in stats that you guys have looked at or that's on the screen for you guys?
Not for me, man. For me, this is not even a stat game, man.
Yeah.
For me, this is a pride game. For me, just for
Yep.
me, man. Brinsky, you could chime in on this. For me, bro, it's just about a want to. We didn't play well last week. We didn't play well last week until the last 5 minutes of the game. Wisconsin gonna be hyped to play Alabama. Come out and really show the world, man. Show the world. Come out, do your job, and put belt to ass. It's just that simple, bro. It's that simple. We can talk about the stats. We can talk about who we've played, who we struggled against, who they struggled against. At the end of the day, you going on the road in one of these funky 11 o'clock games, a la Texas 2 years ago,
Yep.
who didn't look good, who everything we saying now, we said the same thing about Texas. They almost lost to Houston or somebody. I don't even remember. I just know we went in there and we escaped by the hairs of our chinny damn chin. You know what I'm saying? So I don't want that no more. I want you to come out and play ball. I think Jalen Milroe is going to have his best game yet this Saturday. He's heard everything that's been said, and I think Jalen himself would tell you, I could play better. I could play better. I'm sure Jalen would tell you that, right? I'm not, I'm sure Jalen would tell you that. And I expect Jalen to bounce back heavily this Saturday and have his best game of the season. Talk to me, Brinsky. Come on now.
Yeah, that's really all it comes down to, because we all of us watched the game last week and we seen how we played not Alabama football. We was really playing soft. I know we missing our left tackle, right tackle is just terrible all game long. But like Coach Sean said, man, this is really just a pride game. Do you want to? And I think after they seen how bad they played or whatnot, like, yeah, it's like what Apollo Creed said in the second rock. Yeah, man, I won, but I didn't beat them. That's all it came down to. And I feel like that's how they should feel. And I hope that they do feel that way and come out ready and prepared. Like, hey, man, like Nick Saban said, bro, this a new team every year. Whatever you did last year is last year. It's time to play ball now, man, because we literally like 2 weeks away from Georgia. And as of right now, how we playing, I don't see us beating them. And that's just God honest truth. Because we keep playing like this, yes, we're definitely going to lose. And it may be by double digits, especially when we don't get that line together. And that's just all honesty. So these guys got to come out there ready to play ball. And I'm just ready for them to, especially like the O-line, to really smack these boys in the mouth. Like, show that dominance. Like, we are Bama, and we're going to continue to be Bama. You just Wisconsin. We don't care nothing about that jump around and all that. We here to play ball, and then we're going to go back to the crib.
Ty, Coach Carl, anything?
Yeah, I'm going to answer. Stephen G says who wins the time of possession could factor into this game. You're not wrong, but I also think that's just different styles, right? Because Stephen brought up that Wisconsin has a better time of possession per game. That's because they're not explosive. I would be very interested to see explosive play rate, i.e. plays over 20 yards this season. And I think Alabama would probably be very high up there, just considering Jam Miller has 2 touchdown runs like that. Justice has 2. Ryan Williams has, 3 plays. All 3 of his touchdowns were like 30, 40 plus yards. Jalen Milroe has some. Basically, it's just that is a good point about time of possession, and I definitely want to see Alabama extend drives, not just 3 and out. But Alabama's offense is also like very explosive, and so I think that it's going to be one of those things where it's like time of possession. So long as Alabama's offense is operating within the scheme they want to, they might not even have as high of a time of possession as one would think, while still having an absolute beatdown. Like, I don't know what the time of possession breakdown was against Western Kentucky, right? Like, let me look that up real fast, and that'll really
it was actually pretty close because they had like an 18-minute drive on us. But to your point here, I'm looking at a Wisconsin article right now. Wisconsin didn't have a pass over 20 yards or a run over 15 yards in the last game at all. So, and the one notable thing you're seeing on these Badger forum boards is there's no explosiveness in this offense. The average pass, right, per completion is 5.33 yards, right? So that's not really good when you look at Alabama, and Jalen Milroe's anywhere in between 11 to 16 yards per completion, more along the lines of 16 yards because of, well, going deep to Ryan Williams and obviously running after the catch, right? So stuff like that. And the running backs obviously creating a multitude of explosive plays. So go ahead, Ty.
Oh, no, that's it. It was, they had 29 minutes. Did Western Kentucky. Because Alabama this year, they just have an offense that they can score. I'll put it like this, Stephen. Against Western Kentucky, there were 3 different times where it went first down, second down, and it was a huge play on second down, right? Like I think Justice Haynes had the 87-yard run on second down. There was only 2 plays in that possession. One of the Ryan Williams, like 80-plus yard touchdown, there were 2 plays. So the time of possession stats are going to be a little bit finicky. And while I definitely think that there is something to that metric, I also think we need to look at that metric through the lens of what is your offense predicated on based on what is Alabama's offense predicated on.
No, 100%. And even further that stat, sorry guys, and then I'll let you chime in here. As far as Alabama, we have 18 plays over 20 yards, and over half of them are over 30 yards, right? Which is ridiculous. And I remember this stat going back to the Western Kentucky game. Our first 6 touchdowns, none of those drives lasted longer than 1 minute and 39 seconds. Most of them were under 40 seconds and 2 plays.
Exactly. That's wild. My point. That's my point.
Yeah, anybody else want to jump in on this?
But what I would say, the time of possession really don't mean much if you scoring points. It only means a lot when you lose. So time of possession really doesn't mean much. The bigger issue with stats are only good for ranking.
Yep.
I mean, you really don't care about Alabama only giving up 8 points in 2 games. That's only for ranking. I mean, you could be badly played. You played horrible on offense, basically in 2 games, because Western Kentucky stopped us on some drives. South Florida stopped us on a bunch of drives. So we played horrible on offense. So the defensive stats is predicated based on what offense does. If the offense move the ball and defense giving up 8 points a game, the defense is not on the field that much. So they're probably not giving up a 103-yard pass. You know, they probably don't give up 260 yards. So what? How many? 130 yards or so rushing. I think it might be more, and I think a little bit more fabricated because they took some sacks and stuff like that.
Yeah,
where you lose on the sacks coming out comes off your rushing. So I think we gave up a lot of rushing yards, kind of like 200-some yard rushing. But with the sacks, you know, it's the average. It's everything averages out. But if the offense is taking a little more time moving the ball instead of quick scoring drive, boom, putting the defense back on the field, they are not as tired. And I think with all this experiment, what they did the first 2 games about rotating corners and safeties out here and there, keep rotating players, was all just because, you know, they was moving the ball so fast, and now we can get other kids a chance to play. And going into the middle of the season, probably starting this week and going into Georgia, I don't think it's going to be all of those switching out corners, switching out safety. I think they're going to stick with their starting rotation and just let that be. And when somebody get injured or somebody get extremely tired, then you rotate somebody out in that aspect. But just keep swapping them out basically every drive. I think all that's done after this week. We're starting Saturday morning at 11 o'clock. I think that crazy rotation that everybody complained about is probably most likely going to die. Unless they jump out 20-some points on Wisconsin and then they get rotated again, just keep getting those guys experience just in case they need it later on down the line. I don't see a Red Morgan line up against Georgia. I just don't see that happen. Not Red Morgan line up in the slot against Georgia. Kirby Smart to eat him alive. Right. I mean, that just won't happen. So with these stats and then the time of possession, really don't care about it right now. It only matters to me when Georgia come to Tuscaloosa. If Georgia beating us on time of possession coming to Tuscaloosa, we taking the L.
That's a
Yeah.
whole fact.
And that's just it. Unless we just run the ball up and down Georgia ass so quick and so easy.
And scoring,
It's just like we got diarrhea running out the ass. It's the only way I can see time and position don't matter against Georgia. But if Georgia beating us in time and position, we taking that L. And that's period, because Georgia curves more, they coming downhill at you. They running that play action pass. And when they get you to start sinking it toward that line of scrimmage, they're gonna start dumping that stuff across your head. If they don't have many burners, we might run them down. But once you run them down inside 20, they're gonna hold the ball at least what 4 or 5 more minutes and try to pound you into the end zone, unless you just break and then they just give up a big 20-yard run and they go ahead and score. Other than that, they coming at them three every single time. If they getting 4 and 4 every single time, George Kirby gonna keep running that ball 4 yard, 4 yard, 4 yard, 4 yard, 4 yard every single time until you can stop it. Because they want to win the time position battle, because their defense getting all the rest. Now when their defense come on the field, they fresh. So a deep game like this, I really don't really pay attention to it. It's only when they get into the meat of the season, the SEC grind, when that time and position become a real big factor.
Gotcha.
Let me say this real quick. Oh, I'm sorry, Brent.
No. Brentski or coach. I was gonna say Brentski or coach. Either one of you guys.
Well, this won't take but the 10 seconds. Shout out to my brother Chris Williams in the house, our resident Auburn/Alabama fan. Much love to you, Chris, man. I'm glad you tapped in. I noticed you said earlier that all the belts left with Coach Saban. Well, no. One belt was left because them surfers from California come up here and put belt to ass in Jordan hair. That belt was left.
That wasn't a belt. That was one.
You got beat by some damn surfers. Boy, you got way more problems to worry about than Alabama.
You want to know the beautiful thing about that? You want to know the beautiful thing about that? We've heard Auburn fans say, like, "Oh, you can't win in this league with those California kids." There's a bunch of California kids just went in there and whooped Auburn. And let's be very honest, that score lied. That second touchdown they got was a gift from the refs, because that pass interference was non-existent. That was 5 interceptions.
And remember, this is not the USC Cali kids, the South Central, the Southern Cali. This is the Calabasas California kids. You know what I mean? You got beat by some surfers, bro, from the OC. Boy, you got way bigger problems to worry about than Alabama. Go ahead, Brinsky.
I'm telling you.
You know our favorite fanboy, man. He's a fanboy. Hey, man, and I don't know where this whole California narrative came from, boy. If you can play ball, you can play ball. It doesn't matter, man. If you can play ball. I know plenty of guys that came from California thumping. And last time especially a lot of Hall of Famers and some of the best at their position.
Yep.
But you can look that up, Chris. But dang, talking about him made me forget what I was about to say.
Surfboard the ass.
Yo, surfboard the ass.
So while you're thinking about that real quick, Ty, I don't know if anybody has any information on Bray Hubbard. Is he healthy or no? I know he did get hurt.
I looked it up when they asked. I didn't see anything on Twitter. I haven't seen anything.
Yeah, because he definitely was injured. I honestly don't know, and I didn't see anything put out at all about this. But yeah. Oh, Beach Boys. There we go. There you go, man. Oh, so here he says this is an Alabama show, but since we're talking about Auburn, look at the refs. Oh man, here we go.
Listen,
it's always the refs.
No. I'll grant him this. I don't know if for the majority of the game there was awful refereeing, because this is what I will give him. I have seen some of the most abysmal refereeing this season that I have ever seen. You know it's bad when Jahad Campbell is chasing down a quarterback that's still in bounds, that's trying.
Yeah, and they call that flag. That sucked, man.
He pushes him out of bounds, and they call unnecessary roughness, late hit. It's like, did you want him to just run to the touchdown? Is that where? So that very well could be true, Chris. I have, in your favor, seen some of the most abysmal reffing. Aaron Murray is a former UGA quarterback. He did that breakdown of Alabama USF, and he was appalled by how often USF did not draw pass interference penalties because he said they were running down these wide receivers, holding on to them. But I will also say this, Chris. That defensive pass interference that led to the second touchdown, that was another one of those abysmal calls, but it went in y'all's favor. So I have no doubt that the refereeing, if they called that defensive pass interference when that should have been an interception, I have no doubt it was awful refereeing because that was an example of awful refereeing. That was a clear, clean play by the cornerback. And in fact, there were 2 interceptions that got called back, and I don't think either of them were DPI. I think they were both clean. But I will give him this. I have seen god-awful officiating this year.
Yeah, especially the one with Jordan Jefferson. I don't know. I'm
Clean
like, when I
hits.
see now, like, man, come on, man. If they throw him out, bro, I just give up.
Well, that's why I do agree with Chris on this one. They throw targeting fouls if you sneeze on the quarterback. I completely agree with you there. I completely agree with that. 100%.
But Auburn complaining. They took 2 targeting fouls and then they overlooked targeting fouls on Auburn because they were taking shots after shots, especially when they got down 14-7. They started coming in, dropping their head, trying to take people out.
Well, it's just like the unnecessary roughness. I think Ty Simpson's going to be a great quarterback for Alabama next year, but they called Western Kentucky on an unnecessary roughness last week. 4 years ago, that's a play where you take that defensive end down on a steak dinner night for that hit on a quarterback, right? Like it caused an interception that's not on Ty. You're a quarterback. You see an open wide receiver, you go to pull the trigger, and then wow. That's not on you. That's the game of football. But they called that, and I was like, boy, that's not a penalty. That was a great play.
They say he hit him in the face mask.
Yeah.
I guess.
That was a great hit, man.
And Ty, I know you pointed out one super questionable call in Formby. Obviously, the holding where the defensive end, I think it was defensive end, just was falling down.
He fell down, and Formby just laid on him and holding. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, this is the 4th game I've watched today, and in every single one of these games, these refs are dog water. What is happening?
Now I can explain that one to you, Ty, because I took the class for the refereeing. I took the class for the refereeing. If you pancake block, you got a pancake block on the back. You can't pancake block them on the stomach. If they fall on their face, you can put your hands on them, push them down, but you can't lay on them. If you lay on them, it's going to be considered a holding penalty.
Oh, wow.
Okay. I didn't not know that. Okay, fair play then.
That's crazy.
The more you know.
That's that knowledge drop. That's why.
Not that way. The man.
Some of the best in the business.
Yeah. I had to learn some rules this year. So I took the class for refereeing and just went through it. So I learned
I'll tell Chris this. You guys got to fix Peyton Thorne some type of way. And everybody piling on Peyton Thorne, but remember this, Chris. Yes, he threw some turnovers, yes. But whoever the OC is did not put him in a lot of good situations on 3rd down, man. Even when y'all had 3rd and short. Some of that stuff y'all was running, he ain't Cam, man. It's like you got to put him in favorable situations. They didn't help Peyton a lot. That line didn't help him a lot. The play calling didn't help him a lot. Peyton is going to take the brunt of the loss because he's the quarterback. Too much credit when they win, too much when they lose. But Hugh didn't help himself on offense, bro. Some of those, when I went back and watched y'all games, some of them calls was like, what? Like I don't understand. I don't know.
I agree with Chris Williams on this.
Hey, John, can I play devil advocate?
Yeah, no, of course.
Coach Sean, you said they gotta fix Peyton Thorne. Can you fix DJ Udukule, whatever name is? DJ.
I think they're using him the wrong way too. I mean, they trying to turn him into a pocket passer. When he was in high school, he wasn't no pocket passer. He ran around, big old rascal. I just think you're trying to make these dudes be something they're not, and usually that's what happens. I think you got to let Peyton Thorne. I think you got to give him a West Coast type offense, short throws, rhythm throws. having this kid act like he Cam Newton, running option and zone read with him keeping the ball. Like, what the hell? Like, no. You know what I mean? I mean, Hugh, if you're gonna run that type of offense, you need to get a quarterback that kind of offense fit, right? I just don't, I don't know, bro. I don't watch enough of them to make a judgment. I just watched that one game, and I did not understand what competent offense, bro. That seems illogical at times. We're trying to fit square pegs in the round holes, and it just don't work sometimes, man.
But I thought coming out of transfer portal, that was his strong suit.
It don't seem like it. It's like, good Lord, man, this dude, yeah, he athletic and he run around. But if that's all you putting him in position to do, you're gonna lose a lot of games, man. You're gonna lose a lot of games, right? Sure, you're gonna hit some big plays. Anytime you're athletic, you're gonna hit some third and longs. I mean, for God's sakes, they almost beat Georgia last year and us. But when it comes down to it, you're gonna lose some games like that too. You're gonna lose some games, man.
Yeah. One thing I'll say, and I don't like saying anything about Bo Nix, is Peyton Thorne reminds me of a lot less accurate version of Bo Nix. You know what I mean?
Walmart version, bro.
Exactly. Yeah, he's definitely the Sam's Club. Yeah, exactly. Not that I have anything against Mountain Lightning, but yeah, that's pretty much what you're getting in this instance when you get Peyton Thorne.
They got to fix the interior of their offensive line. They interior their offensive line from guard to guard. They got to fix that, bro. They was getting it made me thankful we had the interior we have after watching that game.
Well, Coach, what did I list as my 3 questions for Auburn were? And listen, I grant you, wide receiver, y'all got some dudes. I even like some of your pieces defensively, right? Like along the defensive front, I think you got some guys there. I think obviously, and this goes for everybody could, increase it. My 3 questions for Auburn were quarterback, secondary, and coach. Because while I understand completely where you're coming from, Coach Carl, and let me know what you think about this, because your football knowledge is exponentially greater than mine. So I do want to know what you think about this. I don't blame DJU, and I don't really blame Thorne as much. If you are the offensive guru like Norvell is, like Hugh Freeze is, you have film on the guy. Formulate an offense that works for his skill set. And that's less so with Thorne, but with DJU, Norvell drives me up a wall because you told everybody that these 2 quarterbacks I have that were backing up the guy last year, they could have won a natty. We were wronged for not being there. Then as soon as the season was over, you told one of those guys to leave so I can go get DJU. Like,
yep.
If you got to put him in the position. And Hugh Freeze is one of those cats where I get it. He is a good offensive mind. I don't disagree with that. But dare I say his wins against Bama have massively inflated his value on the totem pole of offensive coaches. He's not Lane. He's not Sark. He's not DeBoer. Hell, I don't think he's Alex Golish. He's not Heupel.
Nope.
And you're right, Chris. They almost hired him. And I made a video when they were looking at him, and I was like, that's a mistake. He is underperformed. Yes, he had a 10-win season at Ole Miss in that same season where he got lucky to beat Alabama. You remember the fumble Rooski where the ball ping-ponged off of 18 different players and the guy caught it? Like, it's always the craziest thing. I think he would be a bit more effective, Chris, but I also think that I'll put it like this. He lost his last 4 games at Liberty. Liberty is like 15-1 since he left. He has a worse record at Auburn than Brian Harsin had. Meanwhile, he can utilize the transfer portal. Harsin couldn't, not to this degree. Lane Kiffin has Ole Miss looking exponentially more dangerous than Hugh ever had them. Hugh had DK Metcalf and Brown, and neither one of them sniffed 1,000 yards. At a certain point, true, I have to start asking questions about, like, where do you rank on this totem pole? Because I think you're too high.
Yeah, Laquan Treadwell was his only 1,000-yard receiver, I believe. We looked that up. So yeah, no, there's
that says a lot. that says a whole lot. These two guys are stars at the wide receiver position in the NFL, and Laquan was the only one.
Yep.
I think
And
I like I
Laquan,
said,
he's not in the NFL right now.
that's what I'm saying. That's crazy. That speaks a lot about you. And a lot of the guys that come to him, besides Laquan Treadwell, I'm about to say Laquan Treadwell, Laramie Tunsil,
Yep.
pretty much all of them faded out. Robert
Mdici,
Ndichi.
like he ain't even, is he even still in the league? He was
I don't
supposed to
think
be
so.
one of them ones. But Hugh Freeze,
I don't think they have anybody.
that's what I said. Hugh Freeze is really overrated, man. And we just come down to it. That's why I'm trying to figure out why guys want to go play for him.
What's the difference between he and Petrino?
I think
They both tear up cities.
Oh, there you go. So do you like Freeze as an offensive coordinator though? Just as an offensive coordinator? No, not even then.
No,
I think
not for me.
I think that I don't know. I really don't know. I just look at it and I'm like, man, what? I'm not saying you're a bad offensive mind, but I don't put him up there in the upper echelon of like the elite offensive minds in college football, right? Like the veer and shoot that Heupel runs and them, that's a son of a gun to defend, y'all. Like that's a nightmare to defend. And they got a guy out there in Nico who can run it. That sucks.
Mhm.
Sark will scheme you into like
It's a fact.
another
Hell.
dimension. Yeah.
Look at our game last year.
Lincoln, I have questions. Well, I mean, he's gone a long way into answering those questions with the move he made on the defensive side of the ball this year. But like Lincoln offensively is you don't question that, right? Like I can't put Hugh up there with that, or Kalen
Crazy,
DeBoer. I
man.
can't.
Yeah,
Crazy,
Chris.
man.
I don't know about this one, bro. If you're but yeah,
He wasn't the best when he had the talent.
No, man.
I don't know
like
about
like
that,
like
man.
you just said, Ty. Liberty is 15-1 since he left. And look at Auburn.
Here's my last point, gentlemen. When he doesn't have the talent to run the scheme he wants, Alex Golish is doing amazing things at USF. You look at what he inherited. Weren't they 1-11 when he got there?
Talent.
yeah.
Way less talent.
And
Won 7
he
games.
is maximizing what he does based off of scheme, which is why whenever we went to play USF, I was like, oh, he comes from that Heupel, veer, and shoot. Those are the guys. Strap in, boys.
He won't be there long. He won't be there long.
No, God forbid. And here's what I hope. I hope y'all hang on to Freeze and that you don't get Golish.
I know, right?
I don't want Golish in the SEC.
No.
We don't need another one.
No,
we don't need another one.
We got enough of this stuff going on.
Go somewhere else.
Vols Nation champs, from Vols Nation, and you know I'm not a Tennessee fan of Vols Nations. I'll be real with you, but this is what I want you to know, and I want you to listen to this, Chris, and for all these Florida State fans. When I watch Nico, this is what makes Nico better than these guys. He has a competent play caller, bro. When you look at Nico, they run a lot of option routes. They run a lot of screens. They run a lot of what we call in coaching FIBs. That's formations into the boundary. They do things to extenuate this kid's talent. You got DJ, they run the ball well enough to extenuate this kid's talent. You look over here at Florida State and Auburn, you're running RPOs, you're throwing underneath in the coverage, you got no diverse run game whatsoever, right? And you want the quarterback to be great. Look at how Tennessee using that Nico kid. A lot of formations into the boundary, a lot of option routes, a lot of screens, a lot of stuff to get him into a rhythm, and then they're going to throw it downfield on you. A lot of competent play calling, man. If you don't have competent play calling, man, I'm telling you, it don't matter what quarterback you have, bro, unless you got Peyton or Vic or somebody that's just going to do what he do anyway. Tennessee is using Nico the way they extenuating this kid's talent, right? DJ, they're using this kid. Man, I don't even know if This is not an RPO quarterback, bro. He ain't no threat. You know what I'm saying? You got to put this kid in situations. You got him throwing underneath. Remember this really quickly. The more space you create, the easier the quarterback reads are. Florida State's offense doesn't create space anywhere. Nobody's afraid of the run game. Every defense seems to play them the same way. Hence, you don't have quarterback success. Auburn. Hence, you don't have quarterback success, man. And that's just the facts of the matter. The truth is in the details, man.
And you got to also look at this, Coach Sean. What happened with Auburn under Gus? Gus brought in what 3 5-star wide receivers, a 4-star wide receiver, 2 5-star quarterbacks, and they said that Auburn was here. Now they talk about the freeze forward. Okay, Freeze brought in 4 talented recruits. What the hell he gonna do with it? With no quarterback, with no competent offense.
And that's what I was gonna point out. What Vincent said in the chat. That's exactly what he said. You're getting all these elite wide receivers, but you don't have no quarterback at the most dependent position.
That's not even fact, man. No play calling, no competent play calling, just like Coach Sean just said. Yeah, everything man. Auburn runs, these guys have to win. If they don't win, that ball is never gonna make it. If they have to be wide open to get the ball. If you ain't wide open, they're not making catches. So you got to win off the line, and you got to win off the break. You got to win off the miss. Like you have to win in order to get the ball in your hands, and they're not winning because the play calling is not designed to get anybody open. They can't scheme people open. They just have to use their talent to get open. And even these freshmen, I don't give a damn how talented the freshman you are. Even Ryan Williams, he know how to take top of the defense. But if the play call is not on point, Ryan, you can see Ryan don't take. He can't even get off the top of the defense when the safety's sitting on him.
It's a whole fact.
And he probably the most talented kid that came out of high school this year. Honestly, between him and Smith, see, you can't even tell who the best.
Yeah. And this is an insane freshman crop of wide receivers. And Chris, there is an element of being vanilla to this offense, right? I would like to see it expanded because I don't want you to get to Georgia and then you're like, oh, this is what we're going to do. But even if you go back to DeBoer in Indiana and Sioux Falls, you look at those games, there is an element of being vanilla. I would like to see you get further into it just to rep. That's neither here nor there. But what you said, Coach Carl, this is an insane class of freshmen in general. Dylan Stewart out at South Carolina. You look at the cornerbacks that Alabama is fielding right now. Those guys are going to be really good football players. Yep. You look at Ryan Wingo. You look at Cam Coleman. You look at Ryan Williams, Jeremiah Smith. The wide receiver class is unbelievable. I mean, this freshman class as a whole is just insane what they're doing. And the last thing I'll say is, and Vols says, what's vanilla? I don't know. Because it's new, Vols. It's a brand new offensive scheme. So it's just like when Josh Heupel first got there, you had a rollout period, right? Because it's not something that's just like hyper easy to pick up. It's a total differentiation in what Alabama was doing last year offensively to what they're doing this year offensively. And it's one thing to practice it, but games are totally different than practice. And so it's about rolling out like, okay, well, these are the fundamentals to which we need to be successful at to be successful within the offense. And I think right now you're in the fundamentals standpoint. DeBoer's offense is notoriously difficult. That's just certainly my opinion. But whenever, Coach, you were saying like, oh, you got all these wide receivers, but no quarterback, all I could think about is why are alligators so ornery, gentlemen?
Dude.
Because they got all them teeth and no toothbrush to brush them with.
Oh, man.
Hey, I'll even give you an admission, and you'll never hear me say this again. So in the nows of history, you better listen because it'll never come out of my mouth again.
Here we go.
I'm going to tell you a team that's going to be a very big problem in the future. They're recruiting not just great athletes, but they're recruiting what they need to be great. And they got the trigger, man. Tennessee is going to be a problem in the future, bro. I'm telling everybody right now. Them dudes is going to be a problem. They got everything they need.
I hate to admit it, but you're right.
It's a whole fact, man. I'm telling you, Tennessee, they know the best teams know who they are. Coach DeBoer in Alabama, we're still trying to find out who we are, right? He's learning his team. It's just his first year, man. It's just his second game at Alabama ever, right? They're learning who they are, man. They're going to be good. We got enough talent to compete with anybody. Josh Heupel is building that roster to what he likes to do. It's a problem. They've gotten better on the defensive side of the ball. They have depth now. Tennessee in the future is going to be a problem in the SEC for all of us, and that's the straight up truth.
All
For
of
the
us.
nation. For the nation.
John, you know this. Coach Sean, Brinsky, I think Brinsky, you and I had just started doing content together, but Coach Sean, Coach Carl, we unfortunately hadn't met yet. Thank God that the future came, and here we are. But John, Brinsky, y'all know, when Nico came out, I said, I love this quarterback class. But Nico, yes, I think it's great that they sat him a year, just because I think that he was one of those guys, and I always said he has the highest ceiling, but I think even in a perfect situation, you sit him a year, you let him grow, you let him get in that strength and conditioning room. But ceiling, holy cow, man, that guy is really darn good. I mean, he's so much fun to watch play football. Let's be honest. If he had any different uniform on, if he had an Oregon uniform on, because I know we're all Bama fans, right? He had an Oregon uniform on. I mean, you'd be lining up to watch Oregon play football because of what he can do, right? Like he's a fun quarterback to watch, man. He really is.
People won't tell the truth, but NC State had a decent team, and they whipped their asses.
They did.
Is that what you want to say?
Yeah. Thank you for the $5, Kareem.
Yeah, Scream 140. Yeah, I was going to point this out, guys. Don't keep hitting them with all that knowledge for sure. You know, Tennessee is definitely going to be an issue. They're going to be, look, and they have a stacked quarterback room. So even after you can say Nico is gone, they're stacking for the future, Tennessee. There's a serious problem at Tennessee if you're an Alabama fan, in my opinion. I 100% agree with that. And to your point too on that tie, you talk about Nico is my second favorite behind. I love JFA. Yeah, I followed Jackson Arnold probably closer than anybody because I fell in love with his film, right? His dynamic playmaking ability, bootleg out. This dude has a strong arm. And eventually Jackson Arnold got that 5th star, which I definitely think he deserves. But Nico, when you watch his film, you're like, he's ready now. He's not ready in 2 years. And the fact that he was able to sit a year was like, yeah, this kid's going to be doing some damage when he gets on the field. And we're seeing the product of that right now. So, yeah, it's definitely scary to think about this.
To quote the TikTok generation, he has an aura around him, right? Like Jalen Milroe has an aura around him, and it's infectious. You can see it through the screen. Whenever he's out there, you're like, that guy's a leader. Yep. Nico's got an aura around him. When you watch him, you're like, shit, this guy's a playmaker.
It's a fact.
Like,
unflammable. He don't get rattled.
And notice what Josh is doing. He's not going to get these big receivers that can't beat press like they used to. These great athletes that couldn't get off press coverage. He's going to get these athletes that may not look like the best ones in high school, but when they get in college, they can separate. He's getting receivers that it started with Jalen Hyatt. Jalen Hyatt is not impressive when you see him walking in Walmart somewhere, but he can separate, man, especially in college football with the way defenses play. Josh is going to get a gang of those guys, man. And I'm just telling you, bro. I'm the biggest Tennessee hater in the world, but I don't lie. The truth is in the details, man. And they doing some things to extenuate their coach, what he likes to do, right? It's gonna be interesting, man, to see the future of Georgia, the future of Bama, which is super bright. I expect our secondary to be a strength here in the next year or so. We have the same thing I said about Tennessee offensively, Alabama defensively. We got some great offensive talent, as we all know, but our secondary, man, listen, they're going to be the strength of this team here very soon. Jalen Mbakwe, Xavier Brown, Xavier Mincy, Drake Kirkpatrick Jr., Red Morgan. Them boys are all true freshmen, every last one of them.
Yep.
So stay tuned, man. King Mack. Stay tuned.
Devontae Smith. I mean,
beautiful
the list goes.
Schematic matchup. Beautiful schematic matchup.
And linebackers is beyond deep. It's just beyond anything we can fathom at this point. So to tell him, Coach. All right. So Brinsky, anything on this before we probably wrap this up here in a minute? I'm not trying to take you guys.
Even guys that's about to come in, this John Lee. I felt like that was the guy we should have got. So just imagine him and Zay Missy on the field. 2 big 6'3" guys that can run with you,
bro.
Man, come on, man.
Crazy, man.
It's gonna be
and they can thump.
And they can hit.
Yep. And of course, can't leave off Jihad Campbell in any conversation.
Yeah, I just don't think he's going to be here in the future,
hard-
though.
Jihad-
That cat's
Jihad
heading to the
Campbell,
NFL.
See you later.
Yeah, see you later. Yeah.
This is last.
So that's unanimous across the board. He will not be back.
Bro, if he plays even at 75%, that this is going to be a bit of a hot take, but if he plays at even 75% of what we're seeing right now, he's a first rounder. He is playing unbelievable football right now.
Because I looked at the mock drafts. I love to look at mock drafts way in advance, and they ain't have them on there. I said, okay, that's going to change very soon. They probably have an updated one now. I bet he's on there. If they don't have an updated one, screenshot it, because I guarantee you he's going first round.
Yeah, I don't think there's anybody that's going to.
Only way he coming back if he feel like it, which I highly doubt.
Man. Tim Keenan stock rising too.
Oh yeah,
Mm-hmm.
Tim Keenan got off.
Man.
Yeah, Tim, he's been tearing up, the middle. So with that being said, is there anything else anybody wants to talk about? Because we're at hour and 26 minutes, and I'm not trying to take up your entire night.
Shout out to my broski ABUT.
There we go. Campbell averaging over 10 tackles a game right now, all over the field. And it's not even just that, the stats, Coach Campbell, I love you point that out, but or Coach Carl, I love the fact that when you watch this dude, he plays with instinct so much of the time. And that's something I like watching defensive players play with, just that instinct of being on the field. So with that being said, like I said, anything else you guys want to point out or talk about before we get off here?
Tomorrow morning
time. The fact that Coach Sean can't stand Tennessee.
Yeah, Vols Nation, I respect you, man, but I just, you
don't.
I and there's no hate, Vols Nation. I just really, how you have that one. I used to ask a question on my channel. And because it's interesting when you see everybody's answer. I really enjoyed that because it was some answers that I didn't expect to get. I used to ask all my channel people that was watching. I said, you can't have two, you can't have three. If it's one team, if you can go 11-1, who is that one team that you just cannot lose? I'm that fan that rather lose to Auburn than lose to Tennessee. Like, I'll lose to Auburn because they're just like the little gnat in your ear. Okay, you won, so what? Nobody cares. People forget about that in 6 months. Nobody cares. Nobody outside of Auburn cares. But Tennessee, man, when they beat Bama, it's like the sun don't come up or something. I get physically sick or something, man. I don't know what the hell be happening, but I can't lose it. You know what, AY? I'll go on record saying I'd rather lose to LSU than lose to Tennessee. What's up, Adam? My broski, Adam Lamparello.
It is isn't it? And I could be wrong here. Isn't it the longest standing rivalry in the SEC? It's not Alabama Auburn. It's Alabama Tennessee.
Alabama Tennessee.
Is it Alabama Tennessee?
I didn't think that was.
Yeah, I think it's Auburn, Georgia. Isn't it?
Yeah, it's Auburn, Georgia.
Auburn, Georgia. Might be.
Is it Auburn, Georgia? I thought it was
is.
Alabama, Tennessee, because they've played more than any other two in the SEC.
We'll have to look it up and bring it up.
It could be Auburn, Georgia. I could be wrong.
The Tennessee loss, Vols Nation, it hurt me. If I lose to LSU, I'm angry. If I lose to Auburn, it's kind of like, so what? They forget them, right? But that Tennessee loss, Vols Nation, man, it hurt me, bro. The fan come out of me on that one. It hurt me.
Well, they taking goals.
I am wrong, by the way. It is Auburn, Georgia.
Auburn, Georgia.
Yeah, fair play. My bad.
What about you, John? Who's the one team that you just? I know Brisky's and I know Coach Carl.
No, it's Tennessee.
I know Tide.
It's been Tennessee because number one, it comes down to Philip Fulmer. I don't like Philip Fulmer. I don't like anything Tennessee has represented since I have been watching Alabama football. That's the problem I have with Tennessee, and I've always had with Tennessee. So we know all about back in the day what Philip Fulmer did, trying to bury Alabama, you know what I mean, to get us in all sorts of trouble, right? We won't get into that because we'll extend this for another hour. But no, it always will be Tennessee for that fact. To me, it's Tennessee, then Auburn, then probably LSU.
But I will say LSU has the most. I think they had when I say worse, I don't mean bad in a bad way. I think LSU has the most Philadelphia Eagle-esque fans in the SEC, hands down. They peed on our car, and I won't forget that.
Hey,
they
but
peed on your car.
What do the song Dixieland Delight say? It said beat Auburn and LSU, then Tennessee too. So even with Dixieland Delight, they always deem Tennessee just a little washover. They hate Auburn with LSU. LSU fans are just like Coach Sean said, the worst.
They worse, man.
The worst. That's why I can't
Crazy.
stand LSU. Man, when we lost to Joe Burrow in Tuscaloosa, I'm sitting in those things. LSU fan was so loud, man. It was about 1,200 of them little songs in there. They were louder than every fan in the stadium. When those fans crunk up, you can hear over Alabama fans clearly. And they were drunk, loud, and obnoxious. When they was winning, they throwing beer everywhere, standing up,
Yep.
pulling their shirts up. If
Yep.
Nick Saban, like,
They
man,
different. They different.
Now,
Ain't nothing going to top Auburn in my eyes. Nothing is going to top Auburn. And I'm telling you, my hate grew even more. And I hated this man. I love him now. I have to admit, my 19-year-old self would have been like, "What the hell are you talking about? You love this man." And that man is Cam Newton. When that man, what he did to us on
Yeah.
that day, and we was annihilating them, and it all turned. It's like the wheels just fell off after Mark Ingram got the ball punched out, and it just rolled into the end zone. I think it rolled like 20 yards into the end zone. I could not believe it. And I should have known, like, bro, it's about to be a long day after that. I hated Cam Newton so bad. I was quiet a whole week off that Iron Bowl. Man, I was sick to my stomach.
Oh, week?
The kids ain't got nothing on that.
Yeah, so there we go. Anybody else?
When they put that Cam Newton jersey on that Bear Brown statue.
Jesus.
Oh, my God.
I wonder.
Yeah, that's terrible.
That was the worst of the worst. That
I ain't gonna lie,
more
mine
than
was
anything in the world.
2 years ago when we lost to them with Bryce. And the way we lost with that bogus pass interference call or whatever the hell it was, the game, whatever, what was it? An interception or something?
Interception, Kool-Aid pick it off and then call pass interference. What about
that should have been the game over.
17 seconds that they run all the way down the field. They call
it
PI.
Man. Bro, when we lost that game, bro, man, my neighbor was the big, Dave Cox. He got a Tennessee tattoo on his arm. Man, these dudes was knocking on my door. I didn't even want to answer the door, man. I was so mad we lost that game, man. I know, they real country. I know you in there, Sean. I know you in there, Bubba. Open the door. Man, I was in there like this, mad as hell. I mean, bro, I was physically mad that game, bro. Like, I don't usually get like that because I played this game. But, bro, when they beat us, bro, I was hurt, bro. Hurt. Like,
yeah, there you go, guys. So ending on a great note on finding out who hates who, right? So I mean, I don't think there's a better way to end this thing, to be honest with you. But looks like we got some future talking points here in the future here in the next couple of weeks, obviously. But with that being said, anybody else with any last words before we get off here and I'll release you guys back to the wild?
Thank you, John, for having us, brother.
No, of course. I appreciate everybody getting on here, right? So love the experience, love the talking, love the knowledge dropping, obviously from the coaches, and Ty studying film all day, then dropping that, and Brinsky getting on here, getting to know Brinsky and everybody on here really more outside of Ty. I've known Ty for a couple of years, but yeah, a great time. Yeah, exactly. Don't make me bring up that old intro showing you though. You know what I mean? Your original backdrop. So, but yeah,
I'll pipe down.
Do what?
I said I'll pipe down.
No, I appreciate you guys getting on here for real though. This is a good time. Obviously, all the knowledge and stuff like that. But tell everybody where they can find you at, Coach Sean, starting at you, then wrapping around and ending with Brinsky.
You can definitely find me, guys, if you can, tapping with me at JMHO Sports Talk right here on YouTube. JMHO, that just stands for, if you forget the letters, it's just my humble opinion. JMHO Sports Talk. Go like, go subscribe, and at JMHO Sports Talk. Same on Twitter. Tomorrow morning with my man Ty, about 9 o'clock in the morning, we're gonna get it cracking one more time. Tap in with all my brothers on this channel, as well as Jake, as well as Jance, as well as Smook, as well as Jason, well as Coach I. Everybody, great content from everybody, and thank you, John, as always. Growing channel. Roll Tide to you all.
Yeah, you can catch me at Around the Table Sports. Vols Nation asks, where did that name come from? Well, because we do a lot of roundtable panels on my show, but to be 100% honest with you, Vols, I made it because I was doing an internship and I didn't expect it to take off. and then the channel blew up, and that's and now it's too late to change it because branding and all that. So it's around the table sports, but you can catch me there. You can catch me on the Bama Standard. You can catch me every Friday on my live show with Coach Sean, where we roundtable Friday mornings. We roundtable Monday afternoons to give us previews and then the post-game talk. You can catch me Fridays after our roundtable on my channel on Bleacher Report doing the National College Football Pick'em Show. Then you can catch me Saturdays after the Alabama games on Bleacher Report doing the post-game analysis. Would love to have you all over there.
All right,
Coach Carl.
There we go.
You can find me on Twitter at Coach KD Tatum, or you can watch some of my video clips I have been posting from the University of Alabama football games, and that's that's on the Block Sport Talk with Coach Carl. That's on YouTube. Other than that, I'll be around here when I'm free. We ain't in football practice. I'll be around with Coach Sean, with Ty. If Brinsky invite me, I'll show up with Brinsky. Appreciate you, John.
No,
I really do for the invite. I wasn't doing that tonight anyway. We had the day off, so it was actually kind of cool today. I get a chance to sit down with my brothers and talk football. And I appreciate everybody being here. And one last thing I want to say: go Cowboys.
Go Cal.
Brinsky.
Oh, well, I'm Brent Sharp of the Sharpshooters Podcast. As always, it's in the chat. Hit that subscribe button to the chat. Almost at 600 subscribers. So appreciate y'all. Appreciate you, John, bringing me up here, my brother. You just hit, I said last time we was on together, hit 200 subscribers. Now it's time to get you to 300. So everybody in here should definitely go over there. Shout out to my boy, Coach Sean, my main man, Ty, my boy, Coach Carl. So, man, just appreciate everybody, their support, all the Alabama fans, F Auburn as always, and Roll Damn Tide.
There you go. Appreciate everybody getting on here in the comments, all that good stuff, talking, and interacting. We're definitely going to be doing this, if possible, every Thursday, right, for pre-games as far as to the Alabama Nation YouTube channel and all that. Appreciate everybody getting on here. Obviously, Brinsky, Coach Sean, Ty, Coach Carl. Always good knowledge dropping, right? So, it's just been real fun. Thanks for everybody getting here in the comment section, interacting, and thanks for the donations as well. Other than that, everybody have a good night. And as always, guys, roll Tide.
And Tua just threw 3 interceptions and 1 pick six.
Don't tell me that.
Gosh. And Jalen Hyatt just scored against Alabama again.
The first one wasn't his fault.